Hello friends, my name is Abhishek. I'm studying in Eng-Wing, the very first IELTS or Spoken English Institute in Dakulada. Today I'm going to narrate a story of Ruskin Bond. The name of the story is The Monkeys. Once upon a time, in the village of Shimla, Ruskin Bond just shifted there 1 week ago. He was already good terms with most of his neighbors and was familiar with their pets. One night he had been dreaming or he had really heard dogs barking in the night and had seen them scampering about on the hillside below the cottage. He saw 6 species of dogs there, but he couldn't identify them. Next morning he met Colonel Fairchild, who was his immediate neighbor. He asked from him that, "Does anyone keep retriever here?" Colonel said, "No one that I know of," and gave Ruskin a swift, penetrating look from his bushy eyebrows and said, "Why have you seen one around?" He told Colonel that incident which he saw at night. Then Colonel gave him a horrified smile and went from there. Next night, Arthur heard the dogs again. He went to the window and looked out. The dogs were looking up into the trees and barking. But there was no one on the tree, not even an owl. He gave a shout and dogs disappeared into the forest. Next day, Colonel Fairchild looked at him and asked, "Did you see anything last night?" He was surprised and asked Colonel, "How would you know that?" Colonel said, "There are Miss Fairchild's dogs, and Miss Fairchild died 15 years ago." Arthur said, "Then what are her dogs doing here?" "Looking for monkeys," Colonel said. Arthur didn't understand what was Colonel said. Then Colonel told the whole story of Miss Fairchild, that how much she cared of her garden and especially of dahlias plants, which monkey used to eat every day and destroy them. And her dogs didn't do much because monkeys sitting on the trees. One night, Miss Fairchild borrowed a shotgun from his neighbor and shot a monkey. Then Colonel said she shouldn't have done that. Never shot a monkey. It's not only that they are sacred to Hindus, but they are rather humans. Colonel ended up with his story and set off at a brisk pace through the deodars. Arthur didn't hear the dogs that night, but he saw monkeys next day, the real ones, not the ghosts. There were 20 of them, young and old, sitting in the trees and munching oak leaves, and they didn't pay much attention to the author. Arthur watched them for some time and gave some features of monkey, that they are handsome creature with silver grey fur, their long tails and sinuous. They were jumping from one tree to another and playing wrestling with each other in a funny way. Well, that night the author heard the dogs sound again. They were barking more furiously than ever. He decided not getting up and pulled the blanket over his ears. But the bark grew louder and was joined by the other sounds. Then suddenly the pissing shriek of the woman rang through the forest. It was an unearthly sound and made Arthur hair stand up. He leapt out of bed and dashed to the window. A woman was lying on the ground. 3 or 4 huge monkeys were on her top, biting her arms and pulling at her throat. The dogs were yipping and trying to drag the monkey off, but they were being harried from behind by others. The woman gave another blood-curdling shriek and he dashed back into the room, grabbed hold of a small axe and ran into the garden. But everyone, dogs, monkeys and shrinking woman, had disappeared, and he stood alone on the hillside in the pajamas, clutching an axe and feeling very foolish. Next day, the colonel said, "Still seeing those dogs?" Colonel tried to avoid Arthur's eye, but he asked from Colonel about Miss Fairchild's death. Colonel said, "Yeah, I remember about Miss Child's death. The monkeys killed her. She shouldn't have shot one of them." He said, "Never shot a monkey. They are rather human, you know, and looked thoughtfully at the caterpillar and was making its way up his walking stick. Thank you everyone. If you like this story, please hit the like button and subscribe our channel Eng-Wing for more such stories.